A lot of people are debating whether or not to buy a newer car, and the options on the table are more complex than ever before. We've got full EVs, we've got plug-in hybrids, we've got conventional hybrid, and we've got the good old traditional combustion engine. And I know a lot of viewers of this channel will be going for the conventional combustion engine, but this is a video about the plug-in hybrid. Would the plug-in hybrid be a better option for some of our viewers and some of our members? When you talk to people about plug-in hybrids, they'll often say something like a plug-in hybrid is the worst of both worlds. You've got the worst bits of an electric vehicle and the worst bits of a combustion engine. It's more complex, there's more to go wrong. They'll also quote things like the cost of a replacement battery if it fails, and in some cases you're looking at £8,000 to £10,000 for a hybrid battery replacement. There's also the issue as to whether we can charge at home or we rely on public charging, and we need to look as well at the range of the vehicle and our typical daily use. We certainly want to avoid those short trips in the car, and for many drivers a plug-in hybrid would bridge the gap. It would cover all of those short trips on electric only power and would be saving the combustion engine for those longer trips. So let's just look at some of the arguments that drivers make against plug-in hybrids. Firstly, battery replacement cost. Well, with most vehicles that are sold now, especially here in the UK, you've generally got an 8-year, 100,000 mile guarantee on the battery life. If the battery capacity drops to 70 or 80%, it's going to vary a little bit from manufacturer to manufacturer. They will repair the battery to restore some of that lost performance. Now, the reality is some of these batteries are getting quite old and they've still retained a massive proportion of their original capacity. So battery degradation is certainly not as bad as drivers first feared when this new technology was coming out. In fact, after the first 3 years, a lot of these hybrids only lose a few miles of their range, and that decreases very slightly each year. And again, the degradation is going to depend on how it's charged, and with most people charging at home on a relatively slow charger, there's not a lot of stress and strain going into the battery. So we can reassure ourselves that battery life will be reasonably good on your modern plug-in hybrid. But what about those expensive battery replacement costs? Well, those costs are generally what the manufacturer would charge to replace it with a new battery. Lots of specialists are springing up all over the place that can take your battery, pull out the damaged cells and replace them, and that is substantially cheaper than buying a new battery. And you've also got the option of buying a used battery from a breaker's yard. Now, a lot of these new plug-in hybrids get involved in accidents or are stolen, recovered and dismantled for parts. And just looking around, I recently bought a plug-in hybrid vehicle. I was able to determine that the cost of a second-hand battery for mine would be around £300 to £700, and that really reassured me that whatever happened, I would have either a repair option or a replacement option that would be substantially cheaper than the dealer. And I was also reassured by the lifespan of these batteries. I'm not buying new, I always buy a used car, and the one we went for was a 2021, so already there's been quite a few years on that battery, and we still get a reasonably good range on it. Now, think about the typical drive that we do. If we do 20 miles a day or just 10-mile round trip each day, a plug-in hybrid is ideal because it'll cover that on the electric only power, which will work out substantially cheaper than buying petrol or diesel fuel. The cost per mile of running these is much lower. Even with the proposed government levy of 1.5 pence per mile, don't get me started on that, you're still looking at a saving compared to combustion engine. Now, we have to accept that they are more complex. We've got an electric vehicle drivetrain and we've got a conventional combustion engine drivetrain. But does that mean they're guaranteed to be less reliable? Well, actually, you're only using one of those two systems half the time, or a fraction of the time. So there's less wear and tear going on to each of those components. And if one fails, you've got a backup. In most cases then, if your electric system failed completely, you could still run the car on the combustion engine, or vice versa. If the combustion engine failed completely, you could still get around on the electric only. So you've got a backup system there that you wouldn't have in a dedicated EV or a dedicated combustion engine car. One downside that I've noticed with my plug-in hybrid is that if I was doing a 300 or 400 mile trip, it would use more fuel than I would have done had I used used my old cylinder on demand 1.4 TFSI. That was an incredibly economical engine. This engine is not as economical. It's carrying a little bit more weight in the car as well, but it doesn't have the cylinder on demand function. So my MPG is going to drop to about 50, 52, 53, as opposed to the 60 or 70 that I was able to wring out of the other engine on the long trip. But thankfully, I don't do that many really long trips, and I will still be doing some testing to ascertain that. This is just a gut feeling based on some of the trips that I've done. I've got some longer trips planned, and I'm just going to see how they compare, because I keep a careful record of the MPG that I get from all of my vehicles. But certainly running it on electric only power for the short trip is making quite a substantial saving. I think we're looking to save about £400 or £500 a year in fuel, because a majority of the journeys we do are these very short trip, which would add quite a bit of wear and tear on the combustion engine. So we're now just using the combustion engine for those longer journeys where it gets a proper opportunity to warm up. If we can't charge at home, we want a car that is generally simple to maintain, or we frequently do really long trips, then a plug-in hybrid is probably not the car to go for. And I think it's also fair to say that a lot of drivers looking at a plug-in hybrid should probably be going or thinking about going to the full EV, because a full EV will take a 200 or 300 mile range charge once a week or once every couple of weeks, whereas the plug-in hybrid for the same sort of mileage will need to be charged up pretty much every day, and that's a lot of charge discharge cycles on a battery. Let me know what you think about plug-in hybrids, whether you've got one, whether you're thinking of getting one, and whether this video has maybe changed your mind about it, or maybe got you thinking along different lines for your next vehicle option. If you've enjoyed the video, please boot the like button. That really does help us to get out there. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. There's an opportunity to join the channel as well, to support us with a monthly subscription fee. It's the cost of a magazine. That really does help us to generate new content by allowing us to plow more money. More time can be dedicated to producing great videos on this channel. And I've lined up this video and this playlist that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.